Hello friend, welcome to the Java project. Today we are going to discuss about the microservice and we will implement using the Spring Boot. So let's get started. So this is a employee department microservice. So for department, let me add some dependency like these four dependency we need for the department service. So let me open department service in the IntelliJ. So firstly we have to create an entity class. Let me create an entity, and here we have to add private long code. Okay, and here let me add entity data, and let me add the entity here id, then generated value, and in the generated value we have to add the strategy generated type auto. Okay, so after creating the entity we have to create a repository for this service generated with a repository, and it should be interface extends GPA repository, and pass the department here and the long. That's it. Yeah. So after creating the repository we have to create a service class. Let me create a service dot department service, right, annotated with a service annotation. Then inside it we have to firstly auto wire our repository. So auto wire department repository, so after that we have to create save a department and find department by the id. So create a public department save department, right, and here we will pass the department and department. Then after we have to return the department repository dot save department. Okay, then after we have to create for the find department by the id. So public department find department by id, and here we have to pass the long department id, and inside it we have to just return the repository department repository dot find department by id and pass the department id and create this function inside the repository. Done. Okay, so after creating the service we have to create a controller also. So controller dot department controller, right, and annotated with a REST controller and request mapping and pass the department. Then we have to auto wire our department class. So auto wired, then pub private department service, department service. Then we have to firstly post map to save the department, and then you have to public department, and this one save department. Let me import this file. Yeah, and request body, and here we have to pass the department, right? Then inside it we have to return the department service dot save department and pass the parameter. So then yeah, that's it. Then for the find the department using the ID, so we will use the get mapping and pass the ID or department ID, whatever you can say. So public department find department by ID. The name of the function can be anything, but we are passing the same, so no issue. Okay, so path variable ID, and there should be long ID. Okay, then we have to return the department service dot find by department and pass the ID here. Okay, so our API is ready, but let me change the port number. So firstly let me create a application.yml file. So application.yml, inside it server port 9001. I set the port name, save it, and now I can run this, and let me check on the postman. So department service, right? Let me run this. Support is running 9001. So let me open the postman, and here in the postman you will see the department. I'm passing the 1. Currently there is no any data, so let me add about this one. Post body Java puzzle India, and click on the send, and it's saved. Now let's see one and make it get, and click on the send, so you will see there is the data is coming. Okay, so let me create another service, user service. In the service, to change it to user, then generate this file, this user microservice in the IntelliJ. Now let me create the port first, change the port number. So inside the resource, let me create application.yml and inside it server colon port colon uh, department was 9001, so here I'm making it 9002. Save it, and here we have to create a one entity for the user service. So entity dot user. Okay, inside it we have to pass creating the entity. We have to create a repository for the user service. So repository dot user service. Then it is the interface, and it is a repository. Then so after creating the repository, we have to create a controller and service. So let me create a one controller and one service. So go in the user controller, and here I have to auto wire my service. But before auto wiring, let me make as a request mapping, and here I have to pass the users auto wire user service. Okay, then we have to make a post mapping to save the department data. So blank, and here public user save user. Then let me import this. Then we have to add the request body, and then user, and here just return the user service dot save user and pass this user. Okay, and create one function there. Okay, we will go back here. The TTO we have to create for the department, right? So create one class inside the entity, or TTO we can say. Okay, so TTO dot department, and here let me copy the department from here, department, and copy these files and pass here. And we don't need to use the entity here because this is a TTO file. We have to use the data class. Then after we have to create one wrapper class where we will use the user class and department class. So firstly create one wrapper class inside the TTO, name as response template TTO. Okay, and here we will add private user. Okay, then create private department, right? And I guess data, right? Then we have to go back in the controller, and inside the controller we have to use the get mapping also, create get mapping. So where we will consume that service, and ID. In the get mapping, we will consume this response template DTO here. So public response template DTO get user with department. Okay, and here we have to pass the path variable. This is the ID, user ID, and here long user ID. Then return our user service dot get user with department. Okay, and pass this ID here. Let me create this method also inside it, and now we will implement our service class and we'll complete our service class. So firstly, auto wired our repository here. So user repository file repository. There is a user repository and this one is a service. Yeah, it's fine. So user repository, I don't know how that will happen, and mark as a private. Okay, now our repository is done. Now we have to return the user repository dot save user. So save user part is done. Now we have to implement this get user with department. So there we have to firstly create the object of response template DTO, because that we are going to return. New response DTO, return response DTO. Okay, and inside it here firstly we have to find the user is equal to user repository dot find by user user ID, and here we have to pass the user ID. Let me create this in our repository. Yeah, then controller service. Yeah, here we are. So after that we have to use the REST template. Firstly, I'm going to tell you how you can use the REST template. Then after we will implement the Feign client also. So firstly, let me show you how we will implement the REST template in our project. So implementing the REST template in our project, we have to firstly we have to auto wire the REST template. But before adding the auto wire, we have to create a bean of the REST template. So let me create a bean. Which type of REST template? REST template is part of web client. So REST template, and here we will return new REST template. Okay, then after creating the bean, we can able to add the auto wire of REST template. So here we will auto wire REST template, make it private. Okay, then we are going to use the department is equal to REST template dot get for object, and here we have to pass the URL. So what URL? This department URL. For data we are fetching from this API, and here after that, here we have to pass 1, 2, 3, whatever the user ID there. So we will use this user dot get user ID. We are getting this user from this repository, user repository. Then after we have to pass the department, because the object will be converted in the department entity. That is the purpose of implementing the department here. So after that we have a department and user. So just set department with the department and dto dot set user as a user. So both are completed. So let me check first. 9002. So let me run this program. Run this. So our user service is running. So let me go here. So user service, let me send and is stored. Okay. So let me check the get with the 1, and here you will see the department ID is also coming and user detail is also there. So this is the example of the basic microservice. I will show you how we can implement Feign client. Okay, so we have to firstly implementing the Feign client. We have to use one dependency, OpenFeign, and go in the Explorer. Here you have to copy this Spring Cloud. Then you will see the dependency for the OpenFeign, and then here we'll see this dependency management. These three things you have to copy, and in your project, in the POM, you will see this dependency management, OpenFeign, and the version number, cloud version number. So then you have to firstly enable the Feign client. So this is the first annotation inside the Spring Cloud, so which you will see here. So enable Feign client, then we don't need this bean, so just comment this. Okay, and then we have to create a Feign client for the department. So let me create a Feign.department Feign. Okay, so here we have to use one annotation is a Feign client, and inside it we have to pass the name of the Feign. I am passing the department here. Then we have to use the URL, and URL, let me create here, like let's client post. Here I pass this URL, this department URL, this, and we will use URL section, then client dot post dot department. Now our Feign client is available for the department. Let me add this inside the controller. Let me copy this from the get mapping and just paste here and remove this public, we don't need it, and just here we add there, and inside the Feign, what error is showing. Okay, let's see. Okay, so after using the Feign, we have to change inside the user service. Let me comment this line, and let me comment this line also, we don't need this, and we have to just auto wired department fiend and fiend, make it a private to use department fiend dot by id and pass here the user id. So user dot get user id. Let's run the program. Oh, one thing I miss here, the interface. Yeah, now it's done. Let me rerun this and see if any. Oh, let me check. Department. Okay, there was a spelling mistake. Okay, it's running. So let's see. Let me add the department. Oh, sorry. Let me add one user first. Department is already running, so no issue with that. Just make it post in body. Click on send. Let's save. Now let's go in the get, and here we are using the Fiend client. Run, and here you will see we are using the Fiend client here, where we consuming the department service inside the user service. In the next video, we will use the API gateway and we will use the Eureka server. So keep tuned, subscribe the Java puzzle. Thank you.